Hey folks, welcome to Lone Pine Tarot. Whether you are here for the very first time or you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for choosing to join me for our pick a card reading today. Now, as you know by the title you clicked on, our topic today is quite simple. We are asking for a message from your ancestors, aka what is it that they want you to know most right now. So without further ado, let us choose our pile leaders. We're choosing with a landscape tarot deck today. As you can see, the cards are a bit wider, so I'll introduce them one by one. Pile 1, your pile leader today over here on the left is the Hermit, so the woodsman with the stag in the background. Pile 2, your pile leader today is the top card with the star and the two figures who are very fittingly stargazing, right? There you go. And then pile 3 is over here on the right with the beautiful High Priestess as your pile leader. So pile 1, you are the Hermit. Pile 2, you are the Star. And pile 3, you are the High Priestess. So as I always say, of course, you are perfectly welcome to pause on this part of the reading if you need more time to decide between the 3 pile leaders. But when you are ready, please drop down to the description box below, find the timestamp for your pile, and I will see you in our fun little chat to your ancestors asking, what is it they want you to know most right now? See you in your readings, everyone. Hello there, my wonderful pile number 1. Welcome to your ancestor message today. And of course, as you recall, the Hermit was your beautiful pile leader, the woodsman in the very wintry forest with the stag in the background. Now, our first order of business with your reading today is to identify collectively like what kind of ancestor is coming forward. So let's slide your pile leader up here. And we're going to draw your oracle cards first, especially the archetypes oracle, because that will help identify who this person is that's coming forward for you today. So ancestors of pile 1, could you tell us a little bit more about yourself, especially with this deck? Who's reaching out to pile 1 today? Thank you. How would you represent yourself? Okay, this one for sure. We have the Rebel. Oh boy. So light attributes: challenges authority to effect social change, rejects spiritual systems that do not serve inner needs. And on the shadow attributes side, it rejects legitimate authority out of anger or rebels out of peer pressure or fashion. Okay, so this ancestor coming forward for you today, pile 1, definitely did not walk to the beat of society's drum. They walked to the beat of their own drum. Perhaps I'm kind of feeling... I get like an intuitive sense that you might take after them a lot in that respect. Now, I don't know if this ancestor was alive during your particular lifetime, but it could have been that maybe like stories passed down and that, you know, when you were a child kind of affected your own personality in a way of, like, it inspired you to kind of rebel against authority or inspired you to kind of rebel against the mainstream in terms of being open-minded and able to like think for yourself. Those are kind of the main 2 phrases coming forward with this ancestor. But even if they weren't during your lifetime, you know, sometimes those traits can pass down through families just as like a cultural thing, or even just the way that, you know, depending on where your family is from, maybe rebellion has been a really prominent marker of who you are, of course, depending on what country your family is from, or, you know, country is plural, of course. Many of us are from different, our ancestors are from different places, so. But definitely feels like a rebel. Some of you, I don't know, I feel like might have been kind of a hippie in some way. And I mean that just because of the way the particular rebel is portrayed on this card. Kind of seems like a hippie person, and I mean that like not in a negative connotation necessarily, but that's what I mean is like they just went against the mainstream. Even if in their particular period of time, you know, they might not have been called a hippie because that was a very specific movement, as we all know, but that's what I feel like. I don't know. They walk to the beat of their own drum, as I said. They don't feel like they followed the mainstream. Maybe that made them kind of a black sheep in their family a lot. Maybe it made them talked about in family circles as, oh, that person was such a rebel. Like they didn't do what society expected them to. But that doesn't mean that they didn't live a fulfilling life, though, because oftentimes when we walk to the beat of our own drum, we can be much more happy that way, especially in ways that we reject the negative aspects of whatever society we live in, of course. Now, from the Vintage Wisdom Oracle, we have gentleness. Yes. Okay, so even though they were a rebel, pile 1, I have a feeling that this person was very gentle because of this card too, but also because of how much of like nature is incorporated in a lot of these cards. You know, as I said, hippie was one phrase that came forward, even if, you know, depending on what era or period of time they were from or country, that might not have been the specific movement that they were a part of or what they would have been categorized as. But hippies traditionally, you know, in tune with nature was one of the traits of them, right? And then same thing too with gentleness here. We have, you know, someone who's holding a bouquet. There's doves in the background. She's in a forest. And then once again, we have from your pile leader, the Hermit, this figure who is in a wintry forest. And even in gentleness, you can see, I don't know if you can pick it up on camera, but there are snowflakes around her. So that also makes me think that this person might have been from a cold climate, or their family line was originally from a colder climate because of all of the snowy, wintry imagery. You know, I think, of course, like Northern Europe, Northern Asia, or even, you know, speaking of the Southern Hemisphere, like very southerly tips of the continents where it gets colder down closer to the South Pole, a place that, you know, it wasn't tropical, it wasn't really hot, it was more, you know, they had snow, it was not always 100%, you know, beachy weather year-round is kind of what I'm getting the feeling, at least in terms of like where they were from, or where they lived, I guess I should say. But they were very wise, because the Hermit is someone who, you know, despite them being, you know, away from society, I just realized that too. The Hermit can also be kind of a rebel or a hippie in some way too, because being a hermit inherently in and of itself means you're away from other people, right? So despite that though, they were very wise. They got a lot of their wisdom outside of human channels, outside of society. I get the feeling, as I was saying before, there was kind of a nature-oriented aspect to them. Maybe they lived kind of solo in the wild. Maybe that's why you were even drawn to the woodsman in the first place as your pile leader. They were someone who was in tune with animals, I think. Maybe they even partook in like animal husbandry, right? You know, raising animals and whatnot. Or at the very least, even if they weren't farming necessarily, they were someone who was very in tune with, you know, maybe they hiked a lot, they were out fishing a lot, or they just like to take nature walks, things like that, or they lived in a more rural area that would have led them to naturally partake in those activities more often. Okay, so that's the feeling I'm getting off of this ancestor. I actually do have 2 more oracle cards to draw, but that is a lot already, I'm feeling. I do get the sense, too, I'm not getting a particular gender with this ancestor. Of course, these are general readings, so everyone watching might have, like, a different gender of ancestor coming forward. Because we have both, you know, male and female figures coming from these cards. We have, of course, there's, you know, a man in the Hermit, and then 2 female, feminine people in the Gentleness and the Rebel card, okay? That, too, or it might have been someone who, they might have been a bit of a rebel in a way where they didn't necessarily ascribe to gender norms at the time. That might be why there's a lot of kind of masculine and feminine energy coming forward. Like if they were a woman, it might have been maybe they dressed more masculine in a way, or vice versa. That's very possible too. So ancestor, what else do you want to tell pile 1 about yourself, or what is it that you want to talk to them about today too? We can start kind of going into that area as well. So first up we have, and this is a Gravity Falls deck, so those who haven't seen the show, it's okay, I'll kind of explain as we go along. Mabel is the first card you got. Mabel is a character who is very creative. She's very romantic. She's interested in romance and those things. Boundless imagination, very energetic. She also walks to the beat of her own drum and is very in tune with animals. She has a pet pig called Waddle, so makes me think, once again, we're right on the right track there with this ancestor being kind of a rebel in some way. Doesn't really adhere to what society tells them to do, or didn't during their lifetime that they're presenting to you. Someone who lived a romantic life. It almost makes me kind of think of, what was that literature movement? Like with Thoreau. Oh, it's escaping me. I should know, I had an English minor. I studied a whole thing on it. It was the movement where they drew a lot of inspiration from nature, and it was like, is it called Romanticism? I can't remember exactly, but Thoreau was the era I'm talking about. I went to the woods because I wish to live freely, right? The second card you have is the Town, which is the town of Gravity Falls on the show. More than meets the eye and full of characters. Yes, so still waters run deep, too, with this particular ancestor coming forward. I get the sense they might have been quite quiet. That's another feeling I'm getting because of the Hermit, number 1, but also more than meets the eye. There's someone who wasn't very forthcoming. or loud. But despite that, like, you would ask them a really philosophical question, and I feel like this ancestor would always have a very philosophical, sound answer, because they spent so much time alone, or thinking at least, even if they had been maybe slightly more social, right? But despite that, like, I don't know, they spent so much time thinking that it's like they saw life in just a really unique way. They were kind of a change maker, even if at the time it created a bit of friction against the society or culture that they lived in, okay? So that's the ancestor coming forward for you today. We'll see what they want to talk to you about. Let's draw your tarot cards. So, Rebel Ancestor of Pile 1, what is it that you want them to know? What do you want to talk to them about today? What's their important message? Thank you. Okay, first up we have the Magician. So we have someone, once again, surrounded by nature. We have lots of flowers, the roses and lilies, and the Magician represents trying to manifest something, trying to bring something to life. Okay, I think they want to talk to you about something that you're trying to accomplish. Let's keep going. Then we have the Knight of Cups. Speaking of romanticism, we have the most romantic person out of the knights because he is the element of water. And the Knight of Cups is someone that takes action with their feelings or towards relationships or with like emotional understanding and maturity in mind. Interesting. That might represent you, especially if you are a younger water sign. And when I say younger, the knights typically tend to be maybe like mid-20s to 40s is what I typically see. So, of course, younger is always dependent upon what age you are right now, right? But then we have the Ten of Wands reversed. Okay, they want to help relieve a burden of some sort with this thing that you're trying to manifest. That's another part of what they're here for. They want to help you. Then we have the Four of Wands, helping with stability, helping with happiness in the home, helping with something to be celebrated. That's another key term with the Four of Wands. And then last but not least, we have the Five of Wands. Interesting. Lots of fire. We have 3 Wands cards. Once again, makes me think this is a goal because fire in tarot tends to represent an ambition of some sort. We're ambitious or we're trying to create something. Creative energy is another thing associated with the wand suit in tarot. Interesting. So yes, there's a goal that you've been working on recently, Pile 1, that I think you have been struggling with, at least in terms of the burden involved because of that Ten of Wands energy as your central card. Your ancestor wants to help you with something today to relieve that burden, to help you find greater stability with this thing, and then also there's actually an element of conflict just a little bit here too with that Five of Wands at the very end. Now that might represent internal conflict, like maybe you're internally conflicted over, especially with the element of fire being the Five of Wands, right? That can be internally being conflicted over like what direction do I want to take with this ambition, or maybe you're even being pulled in the path of like 2 different ambitions. Maybe there's been a choice crossroads opened up to you and you're like, God, which path do I take? Which very fitting that a hermit rebel type of energy ancestor would come forward to help you with that because of their wisdom, because of all the time they spent alone and all the wisdom they even derived too from nature and not just society. They might be able to help you see through the decision-making process in terms of what society says you should do versus what your heart is saying you should do, because that's what a Knight of Cups does, my friends. A Knight of Cups takes action with their heart. They don't listen to society. They don't listen to necessarily what people would say is the logical thing to do. They say, what does my heart say? And then they follow that direction as their North Star to guide them. Okay, so I think maybe some of you might be being pulled in a certain direction just based on what you think you should do versus what you actually want to do. I think that's maybe what's been blocking this manifestation of this goal, hence the Magician that came out first. Now, some of you, that Five of Wands might not be an internal conflict. It might actually manifest in the way of an external conflict of some sort, because as you can see with the Five of Wands very plainly, there's 5 different people that are bashing their wands against each other. They're having a conflict of some sort, but the silver lining to the Five of Wands, say, compared to Five of Swords, if the Five of Swords had come out, is that it tends to be a more lighthearted competition. It's not really like a sharp verbal battle over something. It tends to be more I mean, it can be harsh in the way that sometimes fire in wands is the negative of ego if it's out of control, but being upright kind of makes me think it's more of a lighthearted thing. So it could be that maybe you have been running up a lot against, what's the best way to put it? Like people that, like, you might say, well, here is my goal. This is the thing I want to do. And then other people might come along and be like, well, what about this? Or what about that? Or it kind of just feels like maybe there's too many cooks in the kitchen, so to speak, to use the common phrase. Or, I don't know. And once again, it makes me think of this ancestor who basically just said to society or other people, I'm not going to listen to what other people tell me to do. I'm going to do what I want to do. What does my heart say? You know, especially because of the romanticism that came forward here too. And Mabel is a character in the show too, using the Gravity Falls references. She didn't follow her mind. She didn't follow what other people told her. The number one thing she follows as a character, she's very representative of someone that follows their heart. Okay, so I think the main advice that your spirit guide / ancestor, because I kind of feel like this might be a spirit guide for you too. I'm getting the sense that this ancestor is very close to you in terms of your spiritual path, so that's why I say spirit guide as well. But anyways, the main advice that they want to give you, pile 1, today is to follow your heart and not necessarily follow what your mind says in terms of the logical answer, and don't necessarily follow what society says is the logical answer with this. Okay. They're saying, why would you care about what other people say in terms of this goal when what really matters in the end is that this goal, they're saying it's like an expression of your heart. I'm trying to get a message in here. One moment, pile 1. They're saying there's something about it where I think with this goal for most of you, it's the outcome of it mainly affects you. So they're asking, well, if it mainly affects you, then why are these other people even trying to like weigh in on this? I mean, it's good if you ask for the advice of other people and you have invited it in. Like, you're like, hey, what do you think I should do? But I don't know. It's like that too many cooks in the kitchen thing, like I said earlier. I feel like they're like, well, if it doesn't affect them, why do they think they need to control what direction you should go in? So they're saying to kind of put up a little bit of a boundary or wall there. They're saying maybe listen more to what your own heart says rather than what other people say. And that will relieve the burden that you have upon your back there, that 10 of Wands reversed energy, okay? That's your avenue through which you will relieve that burden. It could also be the burden of expectations. Maybe that's why you've been, for those of you where it is resonating, where you're like, yeah, other people have been telling me what to do with this particular goal. Maybe that's the burden of expectation, as I was saying, is like you don't want to disappoint them, but they're like, but pile 1, then you inherently disappoint yourself if you follow what everybody else wants rather than what you want, okay? So if you recognize who this ancestor is, pile 1, think about in this situation, and this is the beauty of ancestor readings, especially when we do recognize who's reaching out to us from the other side. Think about what this ancestor would have done in your position. Would they have let everybody else decide their direction, or would they have said, nah, I'm going to be a rebel, a hippie, a hermit, outdoor woodsman, whatever, what have you. I'm going to follow what I want to do. Well, they probably would have chosen what they wanted to do, hence why they're a rebel, okay? So don't kowtow to authority so much. Don't kowtow to what everybody else's ego and willpower and desires are. Ask yourself, what is it that I want? Okay. And then to cap off the reading, I'm going to ask if there's like any other advice for you from this ancestor, either in general or on this same particular topic. Ancestor, a rebel ancestor of pile 1, what else do you want to tell them today? Any other messages or advice on this particular situation? Thank you. So first up, we have the Ace of Pentacles reversed, okay? That might be something about an opportunity, especially when it comes to career or material manifestation, speaking of the Magician, right? An opportunity that could be squandered, or they're telling you not to squander it, but let's keep going with the other cards to get the full picture. Ah, yes, the Five of Pentacles, which is hardship, financial hardship. Sometimes it can mean authority failing us in some way. And then we have the Page of Swords. So let me look at this for 1 second here. They're saying... let me tap in for just a moment. I'm going to get a direct message. Okay, so they're saying the Page of Swords is about folly. Folly was the main keyword that came forward, and that's kind of what I was feeling before, but I wanted to be sure before, like I said for certain, right? They're saying that to look at this whole situation purely through cold, rational logic would mean to squander an opportunity, especially in terms of career, finances, resources, and stability, that would help you out of a certain hardship that you've been going through. Okay. I don't know if you tend to be, I said before, like, I wonder if some of you are water signs because the Knight of Cups came forward. I almost wonder if some of you are actually air signs. And I know the allure. I'm an air sign myself. I'm a Gemini sun. I know the allure of trying to over-rationalizing things and to completely, like, let's just logic our way through everything. And so your ancestors kind of giggling a little bit or laughing, chuckling, and they're like, well, yeah, that helps you through. It's good to have logic. It's good to kind of cut through things with, rationalization and strategic, logical thinking. But sometimes we get so mired in the who, what, when, where, why, that we hesitate too long and we lose and miss out on certain opportunities. So especially if you recently, whether it's the same situation we were talking about before or a different situation in your life, but either way, if you recently have been offered an opportunity or you see an opportunity in those realms of career, stability, etc., and you've been hesitating because you've been trying to think through it logically, this ancestor might be kind of giving you a bit of a nudge to throw out the air sign energy just a little bit, tone it down. Like I said, I fall prey to the same thing sometimes, pile one, because I'm a Gemini. But throw it out a little bit and consider maybe just taking the risk and jumping in and seeing how it goes, or take a calculated risk, at least, because they don't want you to miss out on this opportunity. That's why the Ace of Pentacles is reversed, because aces in tarot are new things. Things being offered as if by a hand from heaven, hence literally, look, there's a hand popping out of the cloud. But reversed, it's like, oh, you might miss out on that if you don't take advantage of the opportunity when it is presented to you. You might not even know what it is yet. Some of you might be like, well, I don't know what they're talking about. What the heck? That's because maybe it's something that's coming in the near future that you haven't perceived yet. So they wanted to warn you now because they're like, okay, wait a minute, pile one. Don't miss out on this. Don't run into it like a chessboard trying to figure out what's your next move and what's the plan and what's the overall strategy. Ask yourself when it comes along, if it hasn't already, what does my heart say about this opportunity? And that's their advice to you, to follow your heart with that particular thing. Now, let's look over your other cards. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything, especially with the Town. More than meets the eye and full of characters. Yeah, because I think, too, some of your hesitation, if you follow your logic solely without asking your heart its opinion on the matter, is that you might miss the opportunity because there's more to it than meets the eye. It might look less successful or less of like a potential good thing when you first glance at it, but if you look at it deeper when it comes along, they're saying there might be more to it than meets the eye. Okay, so just entertain ideas a little bit more. Entertain opportunities a little bit more. Don't be afraid to walk off the beaten path, just as this ancestor did, okay? That's specifically why they're coming forward for you today, because they're like, hey, I walked off the beaten path myself, and look how I turned out, which, I mean, well, hopefully it turned out well. I mean, obviously, they gained a lot of wisdom in having that open-mindedness and that rejection of authority and that being willing to listen to the teachers of life outside of other human beings and society. Okay, so that's kind of what they wanted to share to you today, was from that wisdom pool that they had drawn from in that particular lifetime. Don't be afraid to rebel a little bit. Don't be afraid to follow what the heart says. Beautiful. So that was your ancestor message for today, my wonderful pile one. I hope, of course, that it helped you. That's my number one goal with these readings. But also, of course, that it resonated, you liked it, etc. So if so, please like, comment, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff. Thank you so much if you choose to do any one of those three things, if not more. And here comes our tradition. As you know, I hope all of you have a wonderful rest of your day. And I hope to see you in the next reading, pile one. Bye. Hello there, my wonderful pile two. Welcome to your ancestor message. And of course, as you recall, you were drawn to the star as your pile leader. Very beautiful card. We have someone who is teaching someone else how to stargaze. Like, here's this star, there's the Milky Way, here's this constellation. So I almost wonder if the ancestor coming forward for you today had been a teacher of some sort. Very possible that that means, or I mean that in like a literal way, where they were literally a teacher or a professor. Could also mean someone that was just a very prominent teacher in the informal way too. Because oftentimes we do learn from our elders within our families, or even if they lived at a time before we were alive, sometimes stories pass down from those ancestors, and we learn through their teaching just in the way tales have been passed down. So we'll see. That's, speaking of, is the first order of business we have today. We're going to draw some oracle cards to identify who this ancestor is coming forward for, pile two collectively. So let's do that right now. Ancestor of pile two, can you tell me a little bit more about yourself, or how you want to represent yourself today with the archetypes cards? Thank you. How do you want pile two to know you as? We have the king. The color purple, light attributes, enlightened, benevolent leadership benefiting those in your charge, or shadow attributes, excessive feelings of entitlement, rulership without restraint. So I think this ancestor was also a leader in some way. Now that might be represented, of course, if they were literally a teacher, because a teacher is a leader, right, of a classroom of some sort. But even if they weren't a literal teacher, pile two, I think they were a leader in some other way. They might have worked in politics, or they might have worked in, of course, depending on what period of time and culture / country we're talking about, they might have been royalty. We have literally a king coming forward, right? Or even if they weren't literally royalty, they could have been someone that They led something in some way. Let's look at your other cards. I'm very curious to see what else pops out. Anything else you want to say about yourself, Ancestor Pile 2? Our king, we'll call them the king. I'm sure they would like that. It's a compliment, right? Oh boy. That deck was just about ready to spill everywhere. Then we have Union. Very beautiful card. We have someone like a lotus on her forehead. Union. Which once again makes me think of royalty, because oftentimes, as we know, they would marry for union, alliance purposes. Or who they married, or the process of their marriage was very important. Interesting. Let's look at your next cards. Your ancestor isn't popping out quite as prominently as pile 1's did. Might have been they were more introverted. Sometimes I notice details kind of hesitate a bit because the person coming forward is not so forthcoming about who they are. So we have the time machine. Another chance, more time, and cautious. Yep, so cautious. Yeah. They thought a lot before they ever said a single word. They're very strategic in the way that they spoke. Anything else you want to say about yourself, or even... Well, that was fast. The card just came flying out. We have the clone tube with stasis, repetition, and forced growth. This ancestor is quite interesting. I'm going to tap in intuitively for a moment here, pile 2. Apologies for the quiet, but... They keep using the word official in some way. Whatever ancestor this is for you, pile 2, I would recognize it with someone that, I know we said leadership already, but even if they weren't like a huge prominent leader, like a literal king or someone of nobility, they had some official power in some way. Makes me think that they were probably either in like politics, or they were the head of like a military in some way, or even if it wasn't like the big cheese, I guess, so to speak, they were a leader of some group of people, no matter how big or small. And once again, as I said with teachers too, teachers are naturally leaders as well. Some of their job might have actually been teaching people things. So I want to say like teaching people in the military something, or if they were in politics, it could have been that their politics revolved a lot around like educational purposes, or like education in terms of what that they were interested in with their political goals, things like that, making people or helping people get along. But despite them being prominent that way, they were not extroverted, which is rare, because usually people, I've noticed, at least in my personal experience, that work in leadership positions like that tend to be extroverted. Not always. This person was rare in that I think, despite the fact that they wanted to be more cautious and introverted and were more shy, their goal with whatever it is that they were trying to enact change with, or what they were trying to lead, superseded their own natural introversion. But it also lended them a lot of wisdom, because they were very cautious. They always tried to figure out what they were going to say before they said it. They never blurted something out. Everything was planned. And then the clone tube with stasis, repetition, and forced growth. They might have had a bit of a conflict with their parent in terms of, or whoever had the role before them, where they were expected to kind of be a clone of somebody, but they didn't do what they were supposed to, quote unquote, in that they weren't what people were expecting based on what had come before, or like the expectations that were placed on them based on how people in that role before them had acted, okay? Or same thing too, if it was like a parent thing, their parents wanted them to do a certain thing, but they're like, no, I'm going to go this way. I'm not going to be a clone of whatever it is, like either, taking after the parents say in their career choice or in other ways. Definitely family oriented. They might have worked with the youth, because once again, someone's teaching stargazing to the youth in the star card and the clone tube. I mean, it looks like a fetus, right? Kind of, so the young children, things like that, or that was part of their focus with their work. And then union too, of course, makes me think of like being family oriented in some way, especially to their spouse, if they had one, or even if they weren't married, it was like their union or their spouse, quote unquote, was their work. Like they were just very purpose driven. They were very future oriented. We see that with, not only the, time machine makes me think of either, past versus the future. It's like they wanted to help humanity grow in some way. They wanted to leave the generation after them better than they had found how they had found it, or like leave the world better for them than they had found it, I guess is probably the better way to put that. Some of them actually also might have been scientific in some way. I'm seeing some ancestor come forward that's saying something about science, especially because of the star, which makes me think of course, like an astronomer, but also time machine, clone tube, kind of more scientific-y, sci-fi sort of things. So some of them might also have been very future-oriented in terms of what they did to progress the field of science, if they were a scientist, for example. So, but even though it wasn't like cold science, it was like humanity, philanthropic, benevolent oriented science. They cared about people a lot, which is why they did what they did. So yeah, if I had to summarize this ancestor, benevolent is one main keyword really coming out forward. A leader, as we said, someone who really cared about the younger generation after them. They wanted to leave Earth better than they had found it, as I said. So really cool ancestor coming through. Feel free to weigh down in the comments down below if you're recognizing who this ancestor is. I want to know who they are, because this is really cool. I I feel like they might have advanced humanity in some way too. All right, well, let's grab your tarot cards, and then we'll see a little bit more about what their message to you is specifically. We might also, of course, gain more details as to who they are, but yeah, we'll call them the King, though, because that was the first card that came out. So, King Ancestor of Pile 2, what is it that you want to talk to them about today? Okay, your plans for the future. Speaking of being future-oriented, we literally have the Three of Wands pop out, which is literally, I have made plans for the future, and now I'm going to go act upon those plans. So, yes, the future-oriented, intuitive message I was getting from this ancestor, bang on. I can tell that just from the Three of Wands that popped out. They cared a lot about the future. They did not let the past define the present at all. Then we have the Page of Swords reversed. Okay, maybe something you're tackling regarding your plans for the future that it might be a bit of advice in terms of how you're like logically applying your steps, but let's look at the whole picture before I explain. Then we have the, Seven of Pentacles, planting seeds for the future. I don't know if this person, like, maybe they liked sci-fi too, if you knew them in their lifetime. Or your lifetime. Man. Page of Cups, lots of pages, youthful energy too. Even no matter what age you might have known them at, or even if they were alive before you were alive. Very youthful energy. We have lots of pages. And court cards too, which makes me think once again, royalty perhaps for some of them. The ancestors coming forward for pile 2 today. And then we have the Knight of Wands, youthful energy again, but with fire. Well balanced, lots of elements here. That has all 4 elements. Yes, swords, wands, pentacles, cups. Yep. Well balanced person, well rounded, intelligent. But as for what they're talking to you about today, as I said, the Three of Wands indicates that you're focused on the future in some way. There's some goal that you want to bring about that you've had some struggles getting off the ground, I think. They are commending you for your effort in what you have done to make this come to fruition. With that Three of Wands is the very first card, but they're acknowledging here, pile 2, that there's been some struggles because the first kind of, not negative, but maybe advice card is the Page of Swords as the second position card reversed, okay? And a Page of Swords reversed can mean someone that is youthful energy. They're trying to explore something new or learn something new. So some of you, this might actually be like related to education in some way. Speaking of teachers, professors, whatnot, that it's like you're not sure exactly like how to logically go about something, or like you made like a logical miscalculation in terms of like how you wanted to bring this thing about in your planning, or it's like they're saying too that if you haven't planned a lot already, they're saying to be even more strategic or even more detail-oriented in your planning for this from A to Z, from now to the goal that you're trying to achieve, okay? And I think that's maybe why this ancestor specifically came forward for you today, pile 2, because this person crossed their T's, they dotted their I's. They're very organized, very intelligent. As I said, you know, maybe a scientist even, or, you know, a leader, etc. They always brought their A game when it came to planning ahead for the future because they were so future-oriented. Same thing, too, with the Seven of Pentacles as your heart of the matter. Literally, that encapsulates this ancestor in one card, is I have a goal for the future, so I'm planting the seeds now. They recognize that in you, too. Whatever it is this future goal. They know. Well, number one, they're telling you there's merit to your idea. They really like that you're doing this. They think that you embody their legacy in a very important way, is what I'm hearing from them intuitively. It's just that they're saying maybe there's something you need to plan a little bit more here. Or it could also be, as I said, the Page of Swords can be associated with education, because maybe this ancestor was very educated, hence, you know, royalty obviously was often educated very well. Scientists and teachers, of course, are always very educated. So they might be saying, you know, follow my example and maybe go to, you know, if it's available to you, like more schooling or more learning or university for this particular thing that might help you with this goal even further. And for those of you that have been considering, you know, going to get like a certificate or a degree in something, this is your ancestor basically giving you the thumbs up. Yes, do that. Okay, that's what a Page of Swords reversed would be in an advice position for that. Now, you do have the Page of Cups and the Knight of Wands. So many court cards. Page of Cups is a surprise. Sometimes it's literally a card if something surprising is coming your way. So we will ask about that too. But based on the cards we have right now, especially next to the Knight of Wands, I feel like a surprise is coming that's going to help you take action with your passion or your ambition with this. Because that's what the Knight of Wands does. He takes action based on what are his ambitions. What makes him feel most alive. Yeah, you know what? Let's draw those extra cards. I think ancestor, king ancestor, teacher, scientist, leader. Can you tell me more about the surprise of the Page of Cups? What surprise is coming in this path for them on the thing that they're trying to do? Hopefully it's a good surprise. We'll see. I have a good feeling about it, but we'll see. The Empress reversed. Oh, you're going to have to get creative about something. Oh boy. Well, we'll see. We'll see what else pops out. Pile 2. We have but they're saying, but don't worry about it because the Nine of Swords reversed came out. I see. Okay. So the Nine of Swords reversed is, you might be anxious about it when it first comes about, but they're saying, don't be anxious. It's going to be okay. There's something coming with this where you'll have to be more creative with it, or you'll have to nurture something more. That's another interpretation of advice from the Empress reversed having come out. And then we also have the Eight of Pentacles, meaning either we've put hard work into something, but we need to do something just a little bit more or tweak it in order to get the thing out of it that we have been working hard towards. Or it can also mean that they're encouraging you to work even harder on a particular thing. So they're saying a surprise is coming in terms of it's like this thing that you're trying to work on or trying to get off the ground and started. It's going to be, and hear me out, it's going to be okay. They're saying, don't worry, it's the Nine of Swords reversed. You'll be fine. But it's going to be a bit of a curveball. You're not going to expect it, pile 2. They're saying it might require a little bit more work on your part, hence the Eight of Pentacles reversed. That's what that means. But they're saying you're going to weather through it fine, especially if you keep your eyes on the prize in terms of what is it about this goal that makes me feel alive or passionate about it. They're saying when that time comes, as long as you focus on what is my goal, my purpose, what makes my soul sing with this particular goal in mind, that will help you get through whatever this is, okay? So I don't see it necessarily as a bad thing. It's not like it's going to be this horrible, I don't know, I get more unexpected neutral feelings off of it rather than negative feelings. Let me ask though, spirit guide / ancestor, because I feel like ancestor is a spirit guide for you too. Most of the time our ancestors are, in my opinion, but ancestor of pile 2, what is the surprise in terms of like literally? Can you tell me? I mean, obviously everyone's going to be a bit different for a general reading like this, but the Three of Pentacles, yo, okay. Three of Pentacles usually means other people being involved or teamwork. Some of you, it might be someone is added to a project that you didn't expect. It could also be you might find that you have to work with other people on something that you didn't expect to have to. That's what they're saying there with that Three of Pentacles. You're like, I thought I was going to go this solo, but all of a sudden now there's other people involved. Okay. But that also, though, will help you with the hard work of it. In fact, maybe that's why the Eight of Pentacles really came out for sure, because, that's why your anxiety reduces. You know, I wonder if some of you are kind of overwhelmed right now with the workload of this particular goal or project you've been doing. And so the surprise is actually other people are going to come help you. Because an Eight of Pentacles reversed can mean I'm overworked too. But your anxiety is going to reduce, like the Nine of Swords reverse says, because of other people are coming to help you. The cavalry is coming. Yeah. Beautiful. Maybe it even is a teacher of some sort. Maybe that's why your ancestor came forward today. Like, a teacher's coming to help you. Which once again makes me think of education as well. But to cap off your reading today, Pile 2, I'm going to ask your ancestor if there's any final message they want to send to you today. So, ancestor of Pile 2, our very smart leader. Can you tell us more about anything else you want them to know? Any other messages? What else do you want them to know? We have the Queen of Pentacles, stability, security with our resources. The Nine of Pentacles reversed, something about not getting the fruits of our labor. And then we have the Six of Swords. Okay, not a tough love message necessarily, pile 2, but they're saying there's an area of your life where you feel like, and it might be the same exact thing we've been talking about the whole time for some of you. Some of you might be a different thing, but there's an area of your life where you have been seeking internal security or stability with something. And I feel like you've been doing a good job. This is what the ancestor is saying because of that element of the Queen of Pentacles. However, your efforts have not given you back what you deserve based on the sweat equity that you have put into it, hence the Nine of Pentacles reversed. They're saying, as a little bit of a nudge of advice, that it might be in your best interest, if you're looking to be rewarded for the effort that you put into something, to perhaps move away from whatever that thing or situation or environment is. Because the Six of Swords, my friends, you know, we have people that are on a boat, they're leaving somewhere. They're like, this place doesn't serve us any longer. It's no longer providing us with what we need, so we're going to leave. You might be encouraged by this ancestor to, as I said, consider perhaps where you're not being appreciated enough, especially in terms of finance and career, because Pentacles are all about your finance, your career, your stability, resources, etc., to maybe consider moving on. Okay. They're saying you aren't getting what you're worth here with that Nine of Pentacles reversed. It's kind of like, you know, that's why she's in an orchard. She's worked so hard to raise this orchard, or this vineyard, I guess. It's grapes, right? Then she should be able to enjoy the fruits of her labor, her grapes that she has raised so diligently, but reversed, it's that, is a bit of a, we're not able to actually enjoy the fruits of our labor. So they want you to be able to reap the benefits of what you put in, to be able to reap what you sow in a positive way. And wherever you are right now with that, they're saying, might be that you're not getting that, so consider vamoosing, maybe, leaving a little bit, or distancing yourself could be at least another way to interpret the Six of Swords too, so. Yes, they want you to receive what you deserve. Beautiful. So that was your ancestor reading for today, my wonderful pile 2. I hope, of course, number one priority, that it helped you. That's what I care about most with the readings, as I always say. But also that you liked it, it resonated, all that good stuff. And if so, please like, comment, subscribe. You know how the YouTube stuff works. Thank you so much if you choose to do any one of those 3 things, if not more. And as we say in our tradition on Lone Pine Tarot, not in, on Lone Pine Tarot, I wish you a wonderful rest of your day, pile 2, and I hope to see you in the next reading. Bye. Hello there, my beautiful pile number 3. Welcome to your ancestor message for today. And of course, as you recall, the pile leader you chose was the High Priestess. So this almost makes me wonder if the ancestor coming forward for you today was someone who, well, number one, might have been heavily intuitive, because the High Priestess tends to be someone that is in tune with their intuition, but also someone that might have been a bit mysterious, someone that might have been a bit secretive. Those are other keywords often associated with the High Priestess. And even just like looking at the depiction of this particular High Priestess, she's in a cornfield, she has flowers on her dress, so this ancestor might have also been someone that was very in tune with growing plants and like being in nature. Even if not on a commercial level, like say a farmer, it's very possible that they were a gardener of some sort, even just on a hobby level. So those are the first intuitive glimpses I'm getting about this ancestor. But of course, let's see if we can gain more context. So we'll start with your oracle cards today, asking the ancestor pile 3 that's coming forward. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself? What is it that you want them to know, or how you want them to recognize you with? Thank you, ancestor pile. Well, that was quite quick. Oh my. Might have been quite confident, even though they perhaps were a bit mysterious or secretive. We have Goddess, and we have, once again, someone that has a, you know, at first I thought they were flowers on her dress. They're actually hearts. How fitting for February coming up here pretty soon. Might have actually had a February birthday if you're recognizing who this ancestor is within your current lifetime, if you knew them. I get the feeling for most of you this ancestor is a woman because of all the female figures coming forward, especially because, not only do we have, someone that is in a scene of, lots of growth and nurturing and creativity, which are, at least in cartomancy, feminine aspects in the way that these cards are interpreted with the High Priestess, but also we have Goddess come forward. So I also think this ancestor was probably beautiful. I feel like they had pretty good looks. We also have, I didn't read the text, the light attribute says, the feminine expressed through wisdom, nature, life force, and sensuality. And then the dark attributes or shadow are exploitation of the female nature and form. But I get good feelings off of this ancestor. Confident feminine ancestor, did not suffer fools gladly, I don't think. Spoke her mind, was not afraid to tell people like it was, but in a very quiet leadership way. She wasn't blunt in your face, kind of, telling people off or telling people the way things actually were. She was I don't know, I feel like she had a sort of presence to her, a very sort of, she could just look at somebody and they would know, oh man, I effed up. She would just, I don't know, maybe piercing eyes had a look to her face that was very, maybe it was because of her beauty too, but it's she could just command a room that way. Very commanding in a feminine, soft power way rather than an in-your-face, strong, aggressive way, I guess is how I would put that. All right, love this ancestor already. Thank you for coming forward, ancestor of pile 3. Let's keep going. Any other things you want to tell them about yourself? How would you like them to know you, or how they might recognize you? I think she also might have had dark hair. We have a lot of darker haired figures here coming through. Oh boy. And then we have enchantment. Yes. Okay, we have a siren, literally. And then this card also popped out. I will show it. We have peace. Yeah, so she wasn't, as I said, aggressive in your face. She was more of a peaceful sort. And then we have with enchantment a literal, I guess technically a mermaid, but I think it's a siren, especially because she's laying on the rocks and there's a ship in the background. Because, sirens, as we all know, were, I think, technically Greek mythological figures who would sing to men who were sailing and lure them to their dooms. So once again, I think this person was very beautiful in her lifetime. Might have had a way with romance or with attracting partners. But I don't see it in a bad way. Because typically when we think of someone who's a siren, that's a negative connotation because, she'd lure men to her doom. I don't see this ancestor as in, she was, bad to her partners. It was more just that she had such a beauty and a presence that she just lured people in. She was magnetic, I guess, is the word I want to use. In a quiet way, because that's what a siren does. A siren doesn't go up in someone's face and say, here I am. They sing and they lure people in with this magnetism through, well, a siren would be the magic of their singing. That's how they usually would lure people in. So, yeah. Definitely a feminine ancestor, I can tell you that. She's coming forward for you today. I almost wonder, I'm getting an intuitive feeling that she might be trying to help you with something that she wants you to feel more confident about. That's at least what I'm hearing right off the bat. But let's keep going with these cards here. Goddess ancestor of pile 3. We'll use that as the phrase because of your goddess card to refer to you as. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and or what is it you want to talk to pile 3 about today? Wow, could she command a room? She knew her power and she was not afraid to wield it. We have weather vane. Inquisitive goes with the flow. Seeing which way the wind blows. Okay, and then the second card from this deck is the rip-offs. Now, if you're not familiar with these references, this is a Gravity Falls deck, so for those of you who haven't seen the show, I'll explain as we go along how the references apply to your message. The rip-offs were an invention that were, hence the pun, rip-offs. It says short-term needs work, rash-free, question mark. I'm going to wait to comment on those cards. I'm going to draw your tarot spread before I say for sure. I think intuitively, yes, she wants you to help feel more confident about something, but I also think, I don't know if someone isn't taking you seriously. Someone not taking you seriously enough. Ancestor pile 3? Yep, okay. These cards are just flying everywhere today. Thank you, Ancestor. Yep, definitely confident. Okay, so right off the bat we have, I think there's that 3 cards. Let's look if I can pick them up. Alright, there we go. Finally got a handle on them. So the first one that popped out was, yes, the 7 of Swords reversed. Someone getting caught being naughty. Yep. I love this ancestor already. We have the Page of Wands reversed. Being a little impulsive with something. And then in the heart of the matter, you have the 7 of Cups. Deciding what we really want. Adhering to the choice that we have made. Moving from what is a dream into reality. That's another phrase you could use with the 7 of Cups. Now in the near future position or advice position, we have, yes, the Devil reversed. Okay, freeing ourselves from something that is holding us back. Yeah. And then the 10 of Pentacles reversed. Okay, she's quite clear today, pile 3. There's no hesitation at all whatsoever in the way she's speaking and in the message she's trying to portray. So what she is saying is she feels like there's an area of your life right now where the first intuitive feeling I got was like someone's not taking you seriously enough. Remember I said that? I think, especially because of the 7 of Swords reverse that popped out as the first card, I saw that and was like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. You might have already caught this person doing something, or you might have already suspected them doing something that was not on the up and up. Now, that can manifest in many different ways. It's very possible that this is related to, romance and love. Hence, you got the Goddess, the Siren, etc. It could be that perhaps like you were dating somebody and they got caught doing something. Okay, it could also mean in terms of like your career, because we do have a Pentacles card that popped up too at the very end. It could also mean family too. Hence the 10 of Pentacles is often like a legacy inheritance kind of card. So we see all of those elements present here for what it could mean. But in general, for all of you watching this as pile 3, someone got caught doing something, or you suspected them of doing a sneaky that wasn't necessarily nice, just to put it lightly, right? And especially with the Page of Wands reversed is the second card that came up. What that tells me as a tarot reader is I think they were it was either passion directed in the wrong direction, which can, in romance, when someone's got caught with something, that's often what happens, putting passion in the wrong direction, we'll just put it that way. But even if it's not romantic or relationship related, it is someone who, a Page of Wands reversed can be like a youthful, impulsive energy. They were acting more out of passion than out of logic or reason or what was the right thing to do. Okay, that's especially next to a 7 of Swords reversed. Okay, they did something impulsive. They did something that was not right by you. Okay, and that is it's why I got kind of confused with the Gravity Falls cards that came out, the Weather Vane and the rip-offs, Now it clicks because the Weather Vane, as I said, goes with the flow. It's, literally Weather Vane turns with whatever direction the wind goes. Okay, and then literally this Weather Vane says what? Hence the inquisitive keyword. It's like, I feel like whatever this was, it made you feel like out of left field, like what? What is this going on? Or if you're suspecting something, pile 3, or you're doubting your interpretation of the sneaky, whatever went on with this person, coworker, lover, whatever, your ancestor here is saying, like, they're commending you for being inquisitive. They want you to be inquisitive with this because they want you to notice what is going on, okay? They want you to understand that, yes, being inquisitive or curious in this situation is what will help you in terms of, especially now we get to the middle card, the 7 of Cups upright, when it comes to solidifying what is real and what is not real, okay? It could be that that interpretation, say if it's in a romantic relationship, it could be you understanding that whether or not someone was serious or not in terms of their commitment, or it could be someone who, like you were trying to build like a dream or a life with, okay? That can be another interpretation of the Seven of Cups, because it's someone kind of deliberating between, you know, what do I really want from life? Do I want riches? Do I want victory? Do I want power, etc.? And so maybe this person kind of came off wishy-washy. Maybe that's part of why you were like curious in the first place. You're like, well, what's going on here? Why aren't you committing to this? Or why aren't you committing to me? Or why aren't you being serious? And that's, like I said before, it's like this ancestor basically said, well, they're not taking pile 3 seriously. Okay. Your ancestor wants you to get the respect that you deserve, is their main intention here with this particular message. And then, yeah, like the ripoffs too. Short term, something needs work. Okay. You know, in the romantic aspect, short term, of course, can mean that, you know, something didn't last for a very long time. Hence, you know, the term. Or same thing too with, like, say this is like a career-related thing where maybe I'm trying to think of a good example. Like, perhaps you're not being taken seriously enough at your job. Like, you say an idea and no one listens to you, and then lo and behold, later that idea was the very thing that would have saved them from, you know, a mistake or accident that happened. And, you know, oh shucks, too bad we didn't listen to you, pile 3. So, like, that might be one way that also can manifest in terms of people not taking you seriously enough when they should be. Okay, that's just an example. It might not apply to all of you, of course, but yes, it's like you're getting ripped off. It's like you're not being respected enough the way that you should be. So her advice in this situation, and I want to preface this with, as I do with most of my readings, you have free will, pile 3, but if you are doubting whatsoever, leaving this person or situation behind, I will tell you this: the Devil reversed as an advice card often means we need to free ourselves from something that is holding us back. She's showing me this imagery of you being almost like, it sounds kind of cliche, but it's like a star, and it's like something keeps moving in front of you, or like a moon, where the shadow of the earth keeps moving over you, and it becomes this eclipse, and it's like it's dimming your light. And she's like, well, you need to shine your light more, just like she did. You know, looking at this ancestor, obviously, like I said, very beautiful. Get that sense 100% off of every single card that came forward, right? And she was not afraid to shine. She was not afraid to be confident. She was not afraid to kick people behind her that did not treat her correctly, or maybe she struggled with that in her particular lifetime, so that's why she's coming forward from her life lesson into saying, don't do what I did and put up with, well, we'll just be honest, don't put up with bullshit. Okay, it's kind of what she's saying, is what I'm hearing. Don't be afraid to free yourself from that which no longer serves you or respects you. You need to value yourself more, is what she's telling you with this. You know, it doesn't matter what your gender is, pile 3, but with this feminine confidence, soft power confidence of, you know, I have inherent worth. I am worthy of attracting things that are good to me, or people that are good to me. I am worthy of not accepting less than respect. Okay, is what she's telling you. Now, the Ten of Pentacles reversed as the final card is a bit interesting, because typically that means we're not being given something that is owed to us through legacy. So sometimes it's like an inheritance card. That's why at the very beginning I said some of you, this might actually be a family member if it's not career related or romantic relationship related. So in that case, you know, if it is family that this is more resonating with, say a family member is not respecting you the way that you deserve to be respected, you know, she's kind of remarking the same thing. She's like, you know, you really don't have to put up with that. You really don't. You really don't have to take that, well, bullshit, as we said. So, although for those of you that it's not family related, let's see. I'm going to ask for a clarification on that Ten of Pentacles. Ancestor of pile 3, our wonderful goddess, can you tell us more about the Ten of Pentacles reversed? What do you mean by that? Oh, she's putting her hands on her hips. Oh, she's funny. I don't know, did she like the color red? For those of you that recognize who this is in your lifetime, I think she liked the color red. Okay, yep. So 6 of Cups reversed can mean negative family influence. It's one of the other few family-oriented cards in tarot. negative things from the past. And then the second card is the Nine of Swords reversed. For those of you that this is family related, or the person not respecting you enough is family related, or sorry, related to you by family, I feel like because other people in your family put up with this person, there's this legacy, hence the Ten of Pentacles. That's how it clicked. There's this legacy or inheritance of feeling like, well, I have to put up with this too. And she's saying, no, you don't. Just because other people enabled or put up with this person doesn't mean you have to. Okay. For those of you that aren't recognizing this as a family member, let me interpret for that particular situation 1 second. If it's not a family member. Oh, okay. She's saying, for those of you where it's like a coworker or romantic partner, friend, etc., she wants you to acknowledge the ways in which this person you've been dealing with or situation you've been dealing with has put upon anxiety into your mind that was unnecessary. Like, they made you worry about things that you shouldn't have had to worry about, or the situation didn't. Or, I'm sorry, the situation did make you worry about things you didn't have. Like, normally you wouldn't have had to worry about, like if this is a work situation, just as an example, it might be that, most workplaces you don't have to worry about, say, a coworker stabbing you in the back. Okay. But it's like this environment, whatever it is, I don't know. It's just, maybe some of you have been like uber anxious lately and you're not sure why. That's another message she's kind of putting forward here and saying, well, the reason why is because of all the buildup from the past here that was negative, that was heaping anxiety upon you that, you really shouldn't have had to shoulder. Because that's the meaning of the Nine of Swords reversed, is to release anxiety. Let go of what is making us worry or stay up at night, Literally, that's how it's depicted here. She's sitting in bed holding her head in her hands, and she's like, oh my God, I'm worried, right? Reverse, it's like, let that go. Don't let the burdens of the past hold you back in terms of, she wants you to be more free. Because we talk about the devil too, reversed. It's like, you need to be more free from something. Something's holding you down. And she wants better for you. And, that's the other interpretation. Okay. Just clicked because of so many past elements into play here with the Six of Cups and the Ten of Pentacles reversed, pile 3. She's also saying, don't let the history of the way people have treated you make you think as if you have to keep accepting that. Because sometimes when we go through bad experiences with other people, we, especially imprinted on us from our young age, childhood, we can sometimes be trained to accept less than the basics of respect and the way people should treat us because we're used to it. Okay, so if we're used to, say, abuse, sometimes we get so used to it that it seems normal to us, even though from an outside perspective we'd be like, wait a minute, this isn't right? So she's saying to really analyze the situation from an objective outside perspective of, don't compare it to what is your normal. Compare the situation to what is the baseline normal from a good decent person perspective in terms of how people are, how people should treat you, okay? She's like, don't let the past define you. Free yourself from the past. Okay. And then as the final little spread here, I'm going to ask if there's anything else she wants to say to you, any other final pieces of advice or like secondary messages. So, Ancestor of pile 3, anything else you want to say to them? 3 cards, thank you. All right, the 3 of Wands. I'm sorry, I paused because I was laughing. She was, should I say it? Yes, I should say it. Okay, she was showing me imagery of her kicking someone in the ass. Anyways, okay, a I'll leave you with that visual. She was kicking someone in the butt. All right, we have the Three of Wands and the Nine of Pentacles reversed. Yes, that makes sense. And then we have, the Ten of Swords reversed. Okay, quite bluntly, she is very blunt in a nice way. So there's something about your plans for the future, hence the Three of Wands, where you have been putting in a lot of effort towards something. It might be the same exact situation we were just talking about, pile 3, or it might be something different. But in general, you've been putting effort in, but you're feeling like you're not actually getting out of it what you deserve based on the sweat equity you put into it. Because the Nine of Pentacles reversed is always the card of, I put in the work, where's the reward? You know, based on what I've done, what I deserve based on what I put into it, right? Oh man. She's like, why do you keep throwing yourself under the bus for other people? Pile 3. Your plans for the future matter just as much as everybody else's do. Okay? And especially because of the Ten of Swords reversed, that's a card of, we feel like we've either been backstabbed, which is very relevant to, especially if that Seven of Swords energy of someone's been sneaky, did something naughty energy at the very beginning, right? Definitely feels like maybe someone has backstabbed you, okay? It can also be a card of feeling like we are completely done with something, where at the end of our tether, we feel as if there's nowhere else to go. But reverse, there's a silver lining, because it means the worst has already occurred. It can only get better from here. So especially for those of you that have been, like, say backstabbed in a relationship, she's telling you it's going to get better. But one of the ways it's going to get better is by you demanding, in a very valid way, to not accept less than what you put into the relationship. Okay? If you want commitment, if you want a good partner, if you want, or say it's, job related, you want your workplace or coworkers to respect you, or family related, same thing. Make it loud and clear through, maybe it doesn't have to be blunt, like she is very feminine, soft power herself, but she was commanding, like I said, charismatic, magnetic. People listen to her. Draw on her energy, draw on her story and how she enacted this change to make sure that people don't walk all over you. Okay, now it's not saying that, say, if you, were betrayed, that it was your fault, pile 3. No. Because obviously even the most confident people at times get walked all over, or people try to walk all over them, I should say. But it is a good idea going forward in the future to always plan to make sure that if you're in a situation where you're getting less than you deserve, say to yourself, no matter what way I try to reason myself out of it, if I'm not finding what I'm looking for, I can leave it behind. Okay? I don't have to let people walk all over me. I don't have to let people take advantage of me. I don't have to let people, this is like obvious things, pile 3, but, oftentimes, in life a lot of people accept less than they deserve. And so what she's really trying to emphasize to you here is that you deserve a lot more. So especially for those of you that have been betrayed in some way, this reading really, or this message, is her consoling you in one way, but she's also saying, walk forward confidently, knowing that you deserve better than that. Walk forward just as she would have walked forward, okay? Confident. Here I am. Look at my beauty, the way I radiate out. My magnetic personality. I deserve someone that treats me as well as my inherent worth. Okay? So, doesn't matter if it's a family member, doesn't matter if it's a romantic partner, doesn't matter if it's people regarding your career. Whatever situation this is. Stand tall, free yourself. Don't accept less. Okay? So that was her message for you today, my wonderful pile 3. Of course, I hope most of all it helped you. That's my number one goal with these readings. You walk away feeling that you've been helped in some way. But also you liked it, that it resonated. And if so, the YouTube spiel, the YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe, and thank you so much if you choose to do any one of those 3 things, if not more. And as we say in our tradition on Lone Pine Tarot, I wish you a wonderful rest of your day. And I hope to see you in the next reading. by pile 3.